Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another deck profile. Earlier this week, you may have seen the red-blue starter UI Goku gameplay versus the red-blue-yellow Jiren. This is going to be the starter UI Goku deck profile. I actually had this on the Patreon, I want to say a month or two ago, and that was before we saw anything real from Draft Box 5. And I think now this deck has Draft Box 5. I think it's actually a ton stronger. So I wanted to bring it to you guys here on the YouTube channel so you guys can check it out and enjoy it. I think it's a really strong take. If you're a fan of like red blue cooler but you want to play it more aggressively, I would actually recommend this deck over that. Where cooler I think is a lot more mid-range and it's kind of forced to be mid-range, this is actually a lot more aggressive. We'll talk about that in the deck profile. Guys, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. If you guys want to help support the channel, there are many free ways to do that during these trying times. You can like the video, you can watch an ad, maybe share the video, and you can always buy any of the cards you see in today's video using my link to TCG Player or Beater Collectibles. All that stuff really just help out the channel. It doesn't cost you any extra, just gives a little kickback to the channel. That being said, let's get right on into this deck profile. So the leader, not many of you guys may be familiar with. It seems dinky on first read, but let's give it a little read. So Unawakened, it has crit on the Awakened side. It has Warrior of Universe 7, which isn't super relevant in this deck. This is strictly a blue-red deck, but it's cool to know, like, sometimes you have to charge a blue energy and you don't necessarily have the right energy to use one of your red cards or vice versa. That is helpful. Awaken, when you have a Universe 7 card in play with 25,000 power or more, or your life's at 4 or less, you may draw 2 cards and flip this card over. On the Awakened side, critical, Warrior of U7, auto when this card attacks, draw 1 card, then choose 1 U7 card in your battle area, and it gets plus 5,000 power for the duration of the turn. So more often than not, you're awakening on turn 2, turn 3, almost guaranteed, and we will explain why that is during the deck profile. But I've talked about it before on this channel a lot. Your leader has to be the workhorse of your deck this format. This leader offers you so much. So let's say you go second. On your first turn, you get a 10k critical. The really cool thing about that is your opponent's either taking a damage they're not going to get to their hand, or they're comboing a card to save that life. Like, no matter what, your opponent's in a lose-lose situation. And then when you do awaken on that turn 2, turn 3, your opponent is just draining and hemorrhaging card advantage for the rest of the game. Like, you'll awaken on turn 2 a lot of the time, and your opponent's going to be taking crits from like 7, 6, 5 life, and they're just not getting cards off of it, and you're drawing cards. This is one of the rare leaders we see that has crit and also allows you to draw cards early on. It's actually really strong. So with that being said, we will get started with the main deck. So the key card here, We Are Universe 7. Now the really cool thing is you guys may have also seen the red blue yellow Frieza U7 Frieza deck profile that I posted last week. Now for that deck, you do have to play a certain amount of Universe 7s, and if you didn't have to play them, some of them you probably wouldn't play. I mean, they're still good cards, but you probably wouldn't play them if you didn't have to. The nice thing about this deck is we're playing 4 We Are Universe 7, so you can just play the good U7 cards you want to play and not really bog your deck down with anything you don't care to play. Now, We Are Universe 7, a card you may not have seen before. Choose 1, activate main. It's a 1-drop red extra card. You can either choose 1 U7 card from your drop area and add it to your hand. That's any U7 of any energy cost. Or you can choose up to 1 Universe 7 card with an energy cost of 4 or less from your deck, add it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So more often than not, this is like a Successor of Hope or like a Planet Vegeta, and your main search target most of the time is going to be Beerus Divine Obliterator. It's your red-blue super combo. It's just standard for the deck. It's a red-blue deck, and we are playing Arrivals, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the really cool thing about this card is you pay 1 for We Are U7, and then on your opponent's turn, the Beerus Divine Obliterator gets you that energy back immediately, and then you can Arrival right then and there. It's almost like a mini Zeno button that you like kind of search for that also gives you combo power and it lets you play a battle card. If you think about it that way, it's actually very strong. You pay 1 and you immediately untap it on your opponent's turn. Very good. Ultra Instinct on Goku, Universal Impulse, Energy Exhaust, Auto. When you play this card, gets plus 10,000 power for the turn, and you can't play non-U7 battle cards for the duration of the turn. This is our main awakening tool. You want a hard mulligan for this. You really want this or We Are Universe 7 in your opening hand. And one thing I want to mention, because I know I'll get comments about it, why don't you play SS4 Goku Heartfelt Plea in the deck? People ask me all the time, and this card, this Goku says that you cannot play non-U7 cards for the rest of the turn after you play it. So you can't like awaken and then play Heartfelt Plea in place of this card. If you could, you would definitely play 2 to 3 Heartfelt Plea in this deck, but unfortunately you cannot. Auto, when your opponent plays a battle card, you can return this card to the owner's hand. This is actually a relatively relevant effect because in slow matchups, I don't actually attack with this guy. Like, you play him, he becomes 26,000, and then you attack with your leader, he becomes a 31,000 thanks to your leader giving him another 5,000 boost. but I actually won't attack with them too often because I'll be wanting to slowly crit my opponent's life if it's a slow matchup. So like Piccolo or U7 Invoker, for example, I'd rather just crit more of their life and not give them the life. So I won't actually attack with this guy. I'll actually use his effect to bring him back to my hand, and I'll end up charging him later on in the game. You do charge a decent amount of tapped energy in this deck, but you're so fluid with your energy, it doesn't really matter. But if your opponent's like super quickly self-awakening, yeah, if your opponent's at 4 life, attack with a 31,000 beater you got for basically free. It's really, really strong. Then we're playing 2 Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Son Goku Concentrated Destruction. Nice thing about this card is, while it is super expensive, unfortunately, you don't need to play too many copies in the deck because We Are U7 both searches it and recycles it. So as long as you have 1 copy in your deck, you can search it out with We Are U7 if you need it. Then you can recycle it with We Are U7 if you need it. The great thing about this deck is that you get to use all the abilities of this card. When you play it, you wipe the board of 20 or less on your opponent's side of the field. It has the flex, so your opponent can't really stop it. And then activate main for 2 reds. If your leader's red, which we are, you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards, give it minus 25,000 power, ignoring barrier. Once again, you only need to play like 2 copies of the card because it's searchable and recyclable through the 4 We Are U7s. Now, if you don't see the UI Goku by turn 2, which you really, really want to see, you can always search it with We Are U7. It is another Universe 7 card that you can search. You're going to want to do that. Then you can either use a Sensu Bean once you attack with your leader to untap the energy you tap for We Are U7. Then you can drop the UI Goku, or you can wait till turn 3 to drop Goku, depending on what the matchup scenario looks like. Just want to let you guys know that that's how you're basically going to awaken every turn 2 or 3 with 4 copies of We Are U7 and 4 copies of the Ultra Instinct Goku. Moving on, we have our cooler package. We have the 4 arrival coolers. This is where you're searching your super combo and then you're immediately untapping the energy on the next turn to arrival in the cooler. And we're playing 4 combo attack cooler. So in this deck, it really comes up a lot where you want to arrival cooler. Then in the same combo step, you want to be able to use combo attack cooler, bounce the arrival back to your hand, play the arrival again, and then, you know, for as many combo attack coolers as you have, you can replay the cooler arrival. So I've killed things of like 30k power because I've been able to drop cooler 3 times in 1 combo, which is super, super strong. Like, you're not gonna use a lot of offensive energy in this deck. Most of your aggro comes from the leader, again, denying your opponent resources with the crit. And then once you establish a huge board of arrivals and really kill all of your opponent's battle cards, it becomes pretty overwhelming and you generally win from there. Frieza Undying Emperor, playing as a one of. I'm a huge fan of this card. A lot of you guys might not know what it does. Counterplay, if the battle card being played has an energy cost of 3 or less, it's returned to the owner's hand instead of being played. Then play this card. I like this card a lot as an answer to like Topo, Vegeta the Cruel, any battle card counterplay or counterattack that's going to give me a problem. This card answers, and it's recyclable once again by combo attack cooler. This deck is so efficient because you're able to play like lower numbers of cards and recycle them and use them over and over and over again as the situation kind of presents itself. You know, if you know what you need in this deck and when you need to use it, this deck will very strongly benefit you. But I do like the Frieza Undying Emperor because of its recyclability with combo attack cooler. It's very, very good. Next up, we have more Frieza pals. We have 4 Frieza Death's Embrace. This card is just absolutely broken in red, and we have a ton of free energy in the deck. So just presenting this card means your opponent pretty much can't do damage to you. And in certain matchups like U7 Invoker, if they're playing the burn on you, if they're playing the burn strategy, you're going to want to keep this guy in the field so that you don't take too much leader damage. You want to stay at like 7-6 life depending on the scenario. And otherwise, this card helps you push for game. It's just the best, probably the best 1-drop in the game. Then we have 2 Frost Before the Storm, second best 1-drop in the game. I am a super huge fan of this card. So activate main, once per turn, pay a red, draw 1 card. So when you play it initially, doesn't do a whole lot. But every single turn after that, you pay a red, draw a card. This is so good against like Piccolo or any other type of hand control deck that's going to starve your hand of resources. Because every turn you get a draw, and answering a 1-drop is like kind of difficult to do efficiently. Your opponent doesn't really want to waste a Vegeta the Cruel on this. They don't really want to waste a hidden potential on this, even though sometimes they might have to. And then it has the added benefit of the auto. If it doesn't get removed from the battle area, you can then play a Chaos Beam Frostmirror deck. We don't play it in this build, but you always could tech it or sideboard it if you thought that your Frost Before the Storm was going to get pretty easily answered. Another thing too, I would also sideboard at least 1 to 2 more of these cards for those hand control matchups. Our secret rare of choice, Frieza Army Reborn. It's really cool. This is recyclable with the combo attack cooler. You can play this thing, and let's just say you don't kill your opponent and you have no shot of dying next turn. You can combo attack cooler, bring it back to your hand, replay it. It's actually really insane. And man, it's so crazy how this game has changed, because there's actually been several games where I've casted this thing for 8. Like, the game has gotten a lot slower, even though aggro is still very popular. the game is in a really interesting space where you can kind of play every strategy. But this is the secret rare I like. I mean, you can generally control your 2 life because you have a lot of combo power, you have a lot of defense. You can go to 2 life on a turn where you know your opponent's not gonna be able to kill you and drop this. You can't play the red blue victory strike because we don't play any of the red blue extra cards. You could play like smoke dragon, but I think this card's pretty good, so I like it. Moving on to Denial of Hope. This kind of complements the Frieza Undying Emperor. I like it a lot because it just pretty much shuts down most things in the game. Raiders Warcry, Topo, Vegeta the Cruel. There are going to be a lot of times where you're going to want to keep the 2 red open for the Vegeta the Cruel to stop that, or the Topo. Moving on to the negates for Coercion. After Image is pretty good right now, but we have the Cooler Arrival to stop the Boo shenanigans. So I like Whi's Coercion because free energy is always good. 4 Senzu Bean, you're playing 4 Senzu Bean, obviously. Our win conditions of the deck, we have 1 Fu Shrouded, 3 Obuni After Image Slash. Maybe it feels weird to not play 4 Obuni, but I mean, there are gonna be a lot of times where you don't want to tap out for 4. You do want to keep excess energy open, so I won't play this guy a lot until like maybe turn 4, turn 5. If I'm confident I'll get the Activate main to work, but otherwise he is a powerhouse. 3 is definitely warranted in the deck. And finally, guys, 2 Furthering Instruction Champa. You want to get these off as early as possible to get your opponent from like, let's say 7 to 5 life, then maybe like 5 to 3 life with crits, double strike crits. It's really powerful. And of course, you're playing 4 check lands, but like I said before, you will charge a lot of tapped energy, kind of how it works out in the deck. But anyways, guys, this is a deck profile I'm a really big fan of. I think this is a super competitive deck. This and the red blue yellow Frieza deck list, I'd probably be taking to big tournaments if they had them right now, so I want to share them with you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.